welcome to this explainer. If you're a focused learner looking to seriously level up your language skills, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're setting the stage to solve a foundational French grammar mystery, and we're using a really fantastic source guidebook to do it. We're going to explore exactly how we describe people in French. Now, on the surface, it sounds incredibly simple, right? But there is a very specific logical twist to it that constantly trips up beginners. We aren't just going to look at spelling rules today. Oh no, we're uncovering pronunciation secrets, highlighting those sneaky exam traps, exploring everyday real-world usage, and even throwing any super fun Canadian twist. By the end of this, you're going to have a massive phonetic advantage, so let's get into it.
Let's just jump right in with two foundational phrases. Il est amusant and elle est amusante. Both of these sentences basically tell us that someone is funny, but listen really closely to the difference in sound. Amusant, amusante. Do you hear how that second version finishes with a sharp, crisp T sound? That's all because of a single extra letter E tacked onto the end of the feminine version. That one little letter isn't just a typo, and it's definitely not just a quirky spelling thing. It is literally the key to unlocking a massive part of French grammar. It creates this distinct auditory change that is a classic trap in oral exams. Over the course of this explainer, we're going to figure out exactly why it happens, and more importantly, how you can master it.
So, to get to the bottom of this, we're pulling our clues today directly from this Unit 4 grammar guidebook. Guidebooks, they deliberately lay things out like this, mapping the masculine versus the feminine forms side by side. Why? Because it's absolutely the most efficient way to build a mental map for language exams in fluent conversation. We'll be walking through this exact source material to ensure we understand the rules step by step, completely cutting out any confusing fluff so you can learn quickly and effectively. All right, let's start with Section 1, Key French Phrases. Take a listen to this first sentence straight from our guidebook. Oui, Lisa est très intéressante. Meaning, yes, Lisa is very interesting. Now, we need to dive deep into that descriptive word, intéressante. In French, when you add that E at the finish line for a female subject like Lisa, it literally forces you to pronounce the consonant right before it. The E makes the T sound pop. Intéressante. In terms of everyday usage and collocations, you're going to hear this all the time paired with feminine nouns, like une histoire intéressante, an interesting story. And hey, here is a crucial exam point for you. Listening for that final sharp T sound is a super common trick in listening comprehension tests. Examiners want to see if you can catch the gender of the subject just by hearing the tail end of that adjective. Okay, now we introduce another character, Paul, with a slightly less flattering question. Paul est méchant, which translates to Paul is mean. Notice the sound here, méchant. It stops cleanly right at the nasal on sound, and the final ta is completely silent. Because Paul is male, there's no E at the end to wake up that T. Now, beyond just the grammar, let's look at some really fascinating Canadian cultural context. While méchant officially means mean, in Quebecois French, it's frequently used as an intensifier. It's kind of like how we use the word wicked in English. So you might actually hear someone say, un méchant bon film, to mean a wickedly good movie. It's such an incredible piece of cultural flair that adds so much depth to your vocabulary. Let's look at one more example from the source. J'ai un frère et il est amusant. I have a brother and he is funny. So we're talking about un frère, a brother, a male subject. Listen to the word for funny, amusant. Once again, that T is silent. And this actually brings up one of the absolute most common mistakes for English speakers learning French. We have this really strong, natural urge to pronounce every single consonant we see, right? But trying to pronounce the T at the end of masculine words like amusant is a dead giveaway of a non-native accent. The golden rule here is simple. If there's no E at the end of the word, leave that final consonant completely silent. Dropping it makes you sound instantly more fluent. Moving right along to Section 2, French subject pronouns. The absolutely crucial point for mastering this rule is having complete confidence in your fundamental French pronouns. In French, the pronoun il is pronounced almost exactly like the English word il, and it means he. The pronoun elle is pronounced just like the letter L, and it means she. Il is for Paul, elle is for Lisa. It sounds super basic, I know, but here is your major exam point. Mishearing the difference between il and elle is the #1 reason students lose points on beginner French dictation exams. If you mishear the pronoun, you're inevitably going to misspell the adjective that follows it. This binary distinction between he and she is basically the control center for the whole shebang. And that brings us to Section 3, Adjective Gender Agreement. So here is the formal rule right out of our guidebook. Adjective agreement. French adjectives actually physically change form to match the gender of the noun or person they're describing. The standard written rule is straightforward enough. To make most adjectives feminine, simply add an E to the masculine form. But let's look at the true high-level phonetic insight here. That E isn't just a spelling rule, it's an activator. It literally wakes up the silent consonant that comes right before it. This transforms what feels like just boring rote memorization into a highly logical phonetic system. Lisa is female, so she gets the activator E, and the T wakes up. Paul is male, so he gets no E and the T stays fast asleep. Let's walk through this dynamically to really cement that phonetic shift. Starting with the masculine base forms, we have a silent T, amusant and méchant. Now transition to a female subject. You add that activator E, and suddenly the sounds completely change. Amusante and méchante. The T goes from totally silent to a hard, crisp sound. What makes this so powerful is that this formula applies to literally thousands of French adjectives. It's a massive high-leverage role. Master this one concept of the activator E, and your pronunciation and comprehension are going to instantly improve across the entire language. Okay, let's bring this all together by looking at the sentence flow and collocations. The pronoun and the adjective essentially act as bookends for your sentence. When you start a sentence with elle, your brain should automatically prepare to add that feminine ending, that activator E, to the adjective at the end of the sentence. Elle est méchante. But if you start with il, your brain knows to keep that consonant silent. Il est méchant. In French exams, graders are looking for exactly this kind of grammatical consistency from the very first word of the sentence to the last. They work together as a matching pair every single time. To wrap up our explainer today, let's test your new phonetic knowledge. The phrase is, elle est amusante ou méchante? Meaning, is she funny or mean? Based on the sound and spelling of these adjectives, both amusante and méchante ending with that sharp activated T, it confirms immediately that the subject is female. The grammar beautifully reinforces the meaning. So, I'll leave you with a final thought to take with you. The next time you hear a native French speaker use an adjective, or the next time you watch a French movie, are you going to be passively listening for the spelling, or will you be actively listening for the sound? Challenge yourself to listen for that activator E. Once you start hearing those sleeping consonants wake up, you'll experience the language on a completely different level. Thanks for learning with me today.